Level 1, the middleman. You start with a handshake in a parking lot. You know a guy who knows a guy, maybe you're former military, maybe you just grew up around guns, someone needs 10 Glocks. You know where to get them. You make the introduction, you take your cut, $300. It feels easy, it feels like entrepreneurship. You're not manufacturing anything, you're not smuggling anything across borders, you're just connecting supply and demand. The guns are legal when you buy them. What happens after that? Not your problem. That's what you tell yourself. The buyers are licensed dealers, shooting ranges, private collectors. Everything has paperwork. Everything is above board. You file taxes on your consulting fees. You work from your kitchen table. You make calls. You send texts. You meet people in diners and hotel lobbies. The margins are thin, but the volume adds up. 10 guns becomes 50, 50 becomes 200. You're developing a reputation. People call you when they need to move. Product fast. You're reliable. You're discreet. You don't ask questions. Some of your buyers are cops. Some are security contractors. Some run gun shows in states with looser laws. You start to notice patterns in who buys what and when. You notice that certain buyers never seem to run out of customers. You notice that the paperwork sometimes has the same names repeated with slight variations. You don't ask about it, you just keep your cut and move on. Level 2, the straw buy. You realize the real money isn't in connecting people, it's in controlling the paper trail. You recruit people, clean records, no felonies. Citizens who can pass a background check. You pay them $200 per gun to be the name on the form. They walk into the store. They fill out the 4473. They walk out with the merchandise. They hand it to you in the parking lot. You're running 20 people now. Some of them are college kids who need cash. Some are single mothers working 2 jobs. Some are old guys on fixed incomes. You tell them it's legal gray area. You tell them the guns are going to collectors who value their privacy. Most of them don't care. $200 is $200. You move 400 guns a month now. You've set up an LLC. You have business cards. You attend gun shows with a folding table and a cash box. You buy in bulk from distributors in Texas and Arizona and Georgia, states where the laws are lax and the dealers are friendly. You develop relationships. You become a known quantity. The ATF starts noticing patterns. Certain stores selling unusual volumes to individuals, certain names appearing on multiple purchases. They send compliance letters, they request interviews. You lawyer up, you cooperate just enough. You're clean, your people are clean, the guns were legally purchased. What happens downstream, you can't control that. The investigation fizzles, you keep moving. Level 3. The interstate. You go regional, you buy in bulk from manufacturer-friendly states and move the inventory to cities with strict gun laws and high demand. Chicago, New York, DC, Baltimore, places where a handgun that costs $300 in Georgia sells for $900 on the street. You're not selling to street dealers yet. You're still one layer removed. You sell to pawn shops, gun ranges with back rooms, security companies that don't ask questions. You rent storage units in 3 states. You drive a pickup truck with a camper shell. You make runs twice a month. 2,000 guns per trip. Packed in hard cases labeled as tools or equipment parts. You know which highways to take. You know which rest stops to avoid. You know that most cops don't care about a clean-cut white guy in a Ford F250 with Texas plates. Your network has expanded. You have people working the gun show circuit full time. They buy from private sellers. No background check required. No paperwork. They pay cash. They move the guns into your inventory. You scrub the serial numbers from your records. You create new bills of sale with fake dates and fake buyers. The guns become untraceable. You're making $30,000 a month. You buy a house, you buy a boat, you tell your family you're in logistics consulting. You take your girlfriend to Cancun, you wear nice watches, you sleep fine most nights. The news shows shootings in Chicago and Baltimore. You don't make the connection. Or you do, but you file it away in the part of your brain you don't visit. Level 4. The export, you meet a man at a gun show in Atlanta. He's from Mexico. He doesn't say which cartel. He doesn't have to. He needs AR-15S. He needs them in volume. He needs them across the border. He's offering 4 times your normal margin. You start buying rifles, 50 at a time. You disassemble them. You ship the parts separately, lower receivers in one shipment labeled as automotive parts, uppers in another labeled as industrial machinery. Barrels and bolts and triggers scattered across a dozen freight companies. They cross the border legally. They get reassembled in Sinaloa or Jalisco or Tamaulipas. You set up shell companies in Texas border towns. You rent warehouses. You hire local workers who don't ask questions. You pay them well. You pay the freight forwarders better. You develop relationships with customs brokers who know how to classify shipments creatively. Everything has documentation. Everything looks legitimate on paper. The volume is staggering now. 300 rifles a month. Then 500, then 1,000. You're buying from distributors who don't care as long as the check's clear. You're moving enough product that manufacturers start contacting you directly. They offer bulk discounts. They offer custom configurations. They never ask who the end user is. You see photos on the news, cartel checkpoints with soldiers carrying your rifles, mass graves discovered with shell casings that match the calibers you ship. You don't feel good about it. You don't feel terrible either. You've compartmentalized. This is business. If you don't supply them, someone else will. That's what you tell yourself. That's what you tell the lawyer. You keep on retainer. Level 5. The internet. You go global. A contact introduces you to a buyer in Nigeria. He needs anti-aircraft guns. He needs RPGs. He needs ammunition and shipping containers. He's paying in cash. Wire transfers to accounts in Dubai and Hong Kong. You're not handling the merchandise yourself anymore. You're making introductions. You're facilitating transactions between manufacturers and buyers. You're taking a percentage. You fly business class to arms fairs in Paris and Abu Dhabi and Singapore. You wear suits. You carry business cards that list you as a defense consultant. You meet generals from countries you couldn't find on a map last year. You meet procurement officers from militaries with terrible human rights records. You meet rebel groups pretending to be governments and governments that act like rebel groups. The manufacturers are legitimate. State-owned enterprises in Eastern Europe, private defense contractors in Western Europe, they produce military-grade hardware legally. They need someone to handle exports to difficult markets. That's you. You navigate the end-user certificates. You work with freight forwarders who specialize in sensitive cargo. You coordinate shipments through third countries with lax enforcement. You make $1 million on a single deal, then 5 million, then 10. You set up accounts in Switzerland and Singapore. You buy real estate in Miami and London. You have accountants who specialize in international tax structures. You have lawyers who specialize in export compliance. You're operating in the gray zone between legal commerce and international arms trafficking. You start to understand that every conflict runs on logistics. Someone has to supply the bullets. Someone has to move the mortars. The wars on television aren't abstractions anymore. They're your portfolio. You see footage from Yemen or South Sudan and you recognize the weapon systems. You sold those. Or you know who did. It keeps you awake sometimes, not often, but sometimes. Level 6, the sanctions. You get contacted by someone representing a government under embargo, Iran, Syria, North Korea. They need weapons. They can't buy through normal channels. They're offering extraordinary money. You say yes. Now you're operating entirely outside legal frameworks. You use shell companies in countries that don't cooperate with international sanctions. You route payments through cryptocurrency and informal banking networks. You ship through neutral ports where inspectors can be paid to look the other way. You forge end-user certificates. You falsify cargo manifests. You're moving serious hardware now. Anti-tank missiles, radar systems, components for ballistic missiles. You source from corrupt officials in countries with poorly secured armories. You source from manufacturers who maintain plausible deniability through layers of intermediaries. You coordinate shipments through 3 or 4 countries before they reach the final destination. The intelligence agencies are watching: CIA, Mossad, MI6, FSB. You know this. You take precautions. You never use the same route twice. You never meet the same contact more than once. You use encrypted communications that you burn after each transaction. You travel on passports from countries that sell citizenship to anyone with money. You've made enough money to retire 10 times over. You keep going because stopping is dangerous. You know too much. You've seen too much. The people you work with don't do retirement parties. They do loose ends. So you keep moving, you keep earning, you keep one step ahead of whoever's chasing. Level 7, the state level. You're not just supplying weapons anymore. You're shaping conflicts. A government contacts you, not officially, through back channels. They need to arm a rebel group without fingerprints. They need to destabilize a rival without triggering international blowback. You make it happen. You coordinate entire supply chains. You arrange training. You provide communications equipment. You set up logistics networks that look like humanitarian aid operations. You move weapons in containers marked as food aid or medical supplies. You fly cargo planes on routes that avoid radar coverage. You pay off customs officials and border guards across a dozen countries. You're working with intelligence agencies now, sometimes for them, sometimes parallel to them, sometimes against them. The lines blur. A weapons shipment to Syrian rebels is approved by Washington, but condemned at the UN. Cargo of rifles to African militias is funded by European governments, but operated through untraceable channels. Everyone wants clean hands. You provide the dirty ones. You maintain residences in 5 countries. You own properties through anonymous trusts. You have multiple nationalities. You have accounts in banks that specialize in discretion. You travel with security. Ex-military guys who don't ask questions. You've survived 2 assassination attempts, one in Beirut, one in Kiev. You don't know who ordered them. Could have been anyone. The money is almost irrelevant now. You have more than you can spend. What drives you is access, power, the knowledge that you can pick up a phone and move weapons into any conflict on Earth within 72 hours, that generals and ministers and intelligence directors take your calls, that you've become infrastructure, the kind of infrastructure that doesn't appear on organizational charts but makes the whole machine run. Level 8, the shadow. You've reached the level where you're not just moving weapons, you're creating markets. You identify conflicts before they start. You pre-position inventory. You cultivate relationships with potential buyers on both sides. When the fighting starts, you're already there with supply chains ready to activate. You're operating at the level of state actors now. You negotiate directly with defense ministers and rebel commanders. You sit in rooms with people who make decisions about war and peace. You provide intelligence along with weapons. You share information about enemy movements and capabilities. You've become a strategic asset. Your network spans the globe. You have procurement agents in Russia and China. You have logistics specialists in Europe and South America. You have financial operatives in every major banking center. You employ hundreds of people who don't know they work for you. Front companies and shell operations and legitimate businesses that serve as cover. The human cost has become abstract. Numbers in reports, statistics in news articles. You've lost the ability to connect the weapons you move with the bodies they create. Or maybe you never had it. You've convinced yourself you're a neutral facilitator, that you're just responding to market demand, that if you didn't do it, someone less competent would, someone who'd cause more collateral damage. That's what you tell yourself in hotel rooms at 3 a.m. You've been indicted in countries you'll never visit. Your name appears in classified reports and leaked documents. Journalists write articles about you. Most of them get the details wrong. The ones who get close have their articles killed by editors who receive phone calls from people in government. Because you're useful, because you solve problems that official channels can't, because you're a necessary evil in a world that runs on violence and needs people willing to enable it. Level 9, the ghost. You don't exist anymore. Not officially. Your identity is layers of corporate structures and legal fiction. Sorry, you own nothing in your name. You appear in no databases. Your communications are encrypted and routed through servers in countries that don't cooperate with international law enforcement. You've become pure function, pure interface. You orchestrate deals worth hundreds of millions. You move weapon systems that change the balance of power in entire regions. You work with the highest levels of governments and the lowest levels of criminal organizations. Sometimes they're the same thing. You've stopped pretending there's a difference. You never handle merchandise. You never see the weapons. You just make calls, you send messages, you coordinate movements. You're the node in a network that spans the planet. You connect manufacturers to buyers, you arrange financing, you solve logistics problems. You make things disappear and reappear thousands of miles away. You live nowhere and everywhere. Hotel suites and private villas and rented apartments. You keep moving, never more than a week in one place. You trust no one. You have contingency plans for your contingency plans. You have money hidden in forms and locations that only you know about. You have exit strategies from every country you operate in. The isolation is total. You haven't seen your family in years. They think you're dead or disappeared, or maybe they don't think about you at all. You have no friends, no real relationships. The people you work with would kill you if the price was right. You know this. You've killed people for less, or you've arranged for it. Same thing. You'll die violently or in prison. That's the only way this ends. You know this too. There's no retirement, no walking away. You're in too deep. You know too much. You've done too much. The best you can hope for is that it's quick, that you don't see it coming, that whoever does it makes it clean. Level 10, the first deal. He's sitting in a parking lot making his first connection. He knows a guy who knows a guy. Maybe he's former military. Maybe he just grew up around guns. Someone needs 10 Glocks. He knows where to get them. He'll make the introduction, take his cut, $300. It feels easy. It feels like entrepreneurship. He's not manufacturing anything. He's not smuggling anything across borders. He's just connecting supply and demand. The guns are legal when he buys them. What happens after that? Not his problem. That's what he tells himself. He works from his kitchen table. He makes calls. He sends texts. He's developing a reputation. People will call him when they need to move product fast. He'll be reliable. He'll be discreet. He won't ask questions. He's got plans, ambitions. He sees the pathway. He has no idea where it leads, but he will.